What are some of the big things that practice owners should be doing that they're not doing in terms of their marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably first and foremost is
So Justin, welcome to the show. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, for sure. So I love getting the show started off by having our guests paint the picture of how they got to where they are today. So if you don't mind, take us back to Justin growing up. What was that like? Did you have entrepreneurs in the family? And sort of walk us through that journey into entrepreneurship on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a PK, actually. I was one of four, and my dad was a Southern Baptist preacher. So I grew up with a lot of church in my life, so to speak. We had a couple entrepreneurs in my family. My aunt ran a travel agency when that was still a really big thing before the Expedias and the kayaks of the world. And my uncle owned a very large lumber company until the Lowe's and 84 Lumbers of the world showed up in town. Those were probably the biggest entrepreneurs in the family, but my dad was a kind of 9 to 5 so to speak. My mom was a Bible teacher. So I didn't really get hit with the entrepreneurial bug until post-college. I came out in 11 in the finance space. And so I was dealing with going up against a stack of MBA resumes that were all trying to get their like trading licenses and working with Merrill Lynch and going that route. And I couldn't find a job despite my best effort, and ended up landing actually in a newly formed early stage investing fund that they were starting companies in-house and then fully funding them. And I kind of fell into a jack of all trades role where I was doing everything from forming operating agreements to helping get websites built and logos for these CEOs that would ultimately come in. And that was where not only I got my real kind of first taste of marketing, but saw a lot of that entrepreneurial journey from fundraising to starting companies to building subscription-based models, all that stuff. And my now wife, and I, through that journey, started working together and dating. And I was ready to move on and relocated to Atlanta. And at that time, there was an Atlanta Tech Village, the big Pardot exit that really changed the whole landscape when that sold for $250 million. And he started Atlanta Tech Village. That really formed that. But before then, it was just like angel investors, and I couldn't go find a job with an angel investor in Atlanta. So I was really struggling because I was overqualified for a lot of stuff that would hire me, to be honest. And my wife was working in the healthcare space for what had become the largest ENT group in the Southeast. And so she had the background in the marketing, and I did as well. And she kind of told me, well, why don't you start doing social media for medical practices? I'm like, really? It was like the light bulb moment. Like, you can make money posting on social media for medical practice. And she's like, yeah, we have an agency that I manage as part of my job role as a director of marketing. And she made some introductions, and that kind of led us to starting what is now Entropy Healthcare Marketing. And we focus on multi-location private surgical groups and attracting and retaining patients. And that we really jumped in like crazy people at the time. We were dating. We had no money. We had one client that was paying us about $1,500, and we were using that money to pay rent. And we cut cable. We cut our internet. I had a Starbucks a mile down the road that I drove to every single day for the first year to build our business. And that was really kind of the foundation. And it was honestly a struggle for a lot of years because we were making just enough money to live what we thought was a very comfortable lifestyle, and very foreign to our friends who had all gotten jobs out of college. And like, you guys are crazy. You can like sit by the pool and work. It's like, it's not all that it cracks up to be. Trust me.
Right.
We're pinching pennies, and we're the janitor, and we're the CEO of a 2-person company. It's not as sexy as it sounds.
Yeah.
And kind of all of that said, we did that journey for a long time. We formed another business as part of that process that we saw the writing on the wall, that kind of using an LMS and building a course for something that my wife was providing made a lot more sense than going the traditional route of her competitors in the space. And when COVID happened and we found out we were having our first baby, it had really just been her and I on a treadmill for a long time. And I think that changed the course of where our business is today. And in a matter of really 2.5 to 3 years, our business is up 800%. We have 10 employees. We're providing health insurance and 401k and benefits. And really the whole entire thing has changed really dramatically for us. And we're very fortunate for that. And we've got a great group of people that really had made that possible in terms of our employees. So it's been a journey, but there's definitely been a lot of struggles along the way, but very fortunate for where we are sitting today and the success that we have been able to find now, having 3 companies under our belt.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for painting that picture for us. Out of curiosity, what college degree did you end up graduating with?
Finance with an investment certificate. So I got a bachelor's in science.
Okay, awesome. And then you mentioned that you were working for, it sounded like some sort of an investment firm that was starting up companies and funding them.
It was called I4 Capital, and we were fortunate enough to have a senior advisor there that I really learned a lot from. He had an incredible brain for entrepreneurship, and especially just creating just hugely scalable companies. He actually purchased some water purification plants and pulled them together for like a $5 million investment and really focused on a non-traditional way to build up a water bottle company. And that was cooler accounts at places like Publix. And he built it up to Zephyr Hills and sold it for $1.2 billion to Nestle Puree. And so having him sit around that round table and share his experience in terms of like wealth creation and revenue and value creation in businesses was really, I think, fundamental in how I approach and process things. Good and bad always, an experience like that. But it was my first real taste of like big time entrepreneurship and really even how he approached building value in a business. And I think he thought about it in a lot of different ways than most entrepreneurs do. Yeah,
that's an awesome experience. Not too many people get to sit at a table with somebody who's created $1 billion company.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very cool experience.
Super lucky. Yeah. And so you mentioned that your wife was into the marketing side, right? She was the director of marketing for a large E&T group. And is that sort of what sparked your interest in marketing, being that you graduated as a finance major, or was that sort of inspired by something else?
I knew pretty quickly once I got out in the real world, and I think that's what everybody tells you about college. It's really a piece of paper so you can go out and find a job, unless you're very technical skilled, like a mechanical engineer or something like that. I knew very quickly that what I saw in the movies was not the reality of like day trading and being in like the mercantile exchange and like shouting and really cool things happening. And I was like, finance is not for me. I'm just not going to be able to sit in a cubicle and do like mindless day trading. It's just not how I'm built. And I fell in love with the marketing side. And it was really her that not only introduced me to kind of what the other side in terms of what agencies do, but also her mentor, which was the president of that organization, is the one that really set us down when we decided to start on that journey and said, you should niche. Do not be an agency that works with anybody and everybody. Kelly has experience and has a network in medical. And no matter what, if there's a recession or a downturn or COVID happens, people get sick, people break stuff, the medical industry moves on. And it was really his advice that was the major reason that we decided to just stay in one lane. And now 10 years later, we're a dime a dozen, so to speak. There's probably 10,000 healthcare focused agencies that work with all different types of healthcare practices.
Awesome. So what's your role in the business? Are you CEO, operations? Do you manage the day-to-day marketing stuff? What's your major contribution, I guess?
So I am the CEO and I run the day-to-day operations of the business. Mm-hmm. And then Kelly is our president and co-founder, and she really focuses on the kind of the front end content creation and kind of helping me develop the sales pipeline, so to speak. And so she, like the YouTube studio that we have behind us, does a lot of content creation with me and without me. But yeah, I'm not an operations guy from a COO standpoint at heart. So we have a really good COO, fortunately, that helps manage all of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. We've got a great director of operations who just does all the stuff that I don't love to do.
And when you have somebody like that, it is like, thank God I don't have to do that. And we have somebody that's exceptional at doing it, because it is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to dive in to your area of expertise, which is obviously you run a marketing agency. You know what works for medical practices, and obviously a lot of our audience has a medical practice or they're planning to start one. So let's dive in. What are some of the things that practice owners, and I know there's a lot of them, but what are some of the big things that practice owners should be doing that they're not doing in terms of their marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably first and foremost is, as everything has and will continue to shift toward the emphasis of localization and search. That's why you've seen such a rise with Google My Business. It's now Google Business Profiles, and the kind of the offsite search result stuff that Google's providing between GMBs and rich snippets and all of that, that your website and your Google My Business are really foundational if you want to crack the nut on ranking in the top 3 for the conditions, the treatments, the surgeries that you provide. It really starts fundamentally with, if you want to rank for it, you need a page for it. And I think as an owner, stepping back and looking at your website as a whole and saying, like, these are the 30 things that we do, or the surgeries that we provide, or the problems we solve for patients. And do I have individual content on my website to give me a fighting chance over the local health systems and our competitors to rank well? And if you can't answer that and check that box, you're way behind the 8 ball in terms of anything else you can do. I think a lot of agencies jump straight to blogs, like, pay us $2,000 a month and we'll write 2,000 words of blog content for you. It's like, that's all well and good if you're a national company that's going after long tail search query stuff, or something like an e-com site. But if you're a local medical practice that needs to rank in a 15-mile radius for rotator cuff repair, that should be a treatment page, not a blog post. And so it's about starting there and building that infrastructure out, I think, is the most important thing that's often overlooked, and just not doing a good job of how they structure those pages in terms of where you're at. Like, if you're do shoulder repair, then it needs to be rotator cuff repair in Atlanta. And a lot of people don't do that. And it's really just going back to basics if you want to get more out of your marketing.
Yeah. And when it comes to what to put on the page, I know a lot of practitioners struggle with sort of this. I mean, there's kind of 2 different schools of thought. You mentioned one of them already, which is, sort of long form content, trying to jam as many words onto a page as possible to try and hopefully get those keywords to pick up on the Google web crawlers. Then you've got other people who just say, only pick a handful of, keywords and keep it short, keep it simple. Where do you find on that sort of continuum to be the best sort of method?
Yeah, we fall, I'd say, almost right in the middle. And it is a really big balance, because you have the web dev and web design camp, and then you have the SEO camp. The SEO is like, if we put 2,000 words on that page, I know we could get it to rank. And the web dev, web design, UX, UI world is like, that is the worst possible thing. No patient's going to look at that page and be like, oh, I could do some light reading. But there's no way around the fact that Google relies on contact to extract value in rankings. So you have to have that there. So there's 2 good ways to get kind of around that a little bit. One is relying on video, because what video can do is not only can it help you rank, but it increases on-page time, because a consumer that goes to a treatment page and instead of reading watches a video, they're on that page for 2 or 3 minutes longer. And on top of that, using FAQ accordion style sections to your advantage, where you can move a lot of that content down the page without overloading the way that a person naturally reads, is another kind of, I'd say, hack to be able to balance long form content with usability on a treatment page. And so I really think it's about kind of falling in the middle and figuring out what you can do to get the information the patient needs, but satisfy the way that SERPs work.